If if you were to give like supportive words, maybe I don't know if it's advice, but if you were to help someone be excited or feel like comfortable, maybe going into a first day of school
Or work.
or work, what would you tell them? What's one thing?
Welcome back to In Residence. I'm Keith.
And I'm Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Keith.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing swell. You said we should talk about back to school. So let's get into it.
Sounds good.
What were you thinking of? That's the fact that our kids are going back to school.
Back to school for me always is filled with excitement and also a layer of nervousness, maybe. And since child 1 is going back this week and child 2 is going back next week, I thought maybe we could dig into that feeling of what a brand new year brings and about kind of how we feel about it.
Cool. When you were growing up, were you excited to go to school? Especially the first day? I used to be pretty excited. It was like a fresh start. Got new supplies, fresh notebooks, fresh pens, pencils, all the stuff.
Oh, I love the fresh supplies.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. It just always felt like the freshness of it. This was always, it just always felt like possibility, I think.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Yes. I did feel that excitement, that fresh start, but I also had a lot of nerves and butterflies about that first day too. So I remember my mom told me this story of when I was going from pre-K, like kind of 4-year-old preschool, right, to kindergarten. I wasn't sleeping and I couldn't sleep and I was having a hard time. She goes, Laura, what is going on? She goes, you've been to school before. You know what school's like. Why can't you sleep? Why are you so nervous? And I said, well, but where I've been doesn't have a principal. Like there was something where I was so nervous because it was something new. I was scared and I had fear and I was nervous and
How old were you?
5.
Oh, okay.
And
you went to pre-K? They had pre-K back in the day?
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Or like a half day.
I thought that was like a new thing.
I don't know if they called it pre-K.
Yeah. Okay.
That's sometimes how I feel now, where there is that excitement, but there's also that, what if I don't know where my class is? What if I oversleep to my alarm? What if I don't have any coffee? What if, like there's all those like, what if these things possibly go wrong? Kind of walking into that day.
So that's like your overthinker.
I think so.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you've always been an overthinker, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Does that surprise you?
Well, it's just, I think mine's like later onset.
Okay.
Possibly. Or the, like, because what it's really bringing up is, so that's us worrying about the uncertainty. That's what you were just describing, the uncertainty of this new situation, this new scenario, right?
This new year.
Yes, new year. I don't know everything. Whereas I just remember being excited that like I got my new jeans on, like my black acid wash jeans, and I got my...
You were so cool.
I'm talking about like elementary school, remember like kids used to like pin their jeans,
yeah,
like stuff like that.
90s?
So like way back, like,
oh yeah,
my
Lisa Frank erasers,
yeah, Trapper Keepers.
Oh my goodness, we had the best school supplies.
Like I always looked forward to that, and I know there were probably some things I didn't look forward to, but when I think back, the first things that come up are like, ooh, I get to play with the Etch-a-Sketch. I didn't have one of those. I get to read Where the Sidewalk Ends and like Where's Waldo. I didn't have those books. Like I had books.
Okay.
But like some of those I didn't have. I guess maybe I'm thinking like real early back, like elementary, and like we're both overthinkers, and I'm sure I overthought some other things. But when I think of going back to school, I think of possibility, and you're bringing up the uncertainty. And that's something that we've discussed of being able to shift that perspective. And so I know you obviously you have a doctorate, so you've kind of
Had a lot of first days.
You've mastered the art of learning pretty well. So yeah, you've had a lot of first days. And maybe that's something I thought of too, is like every day for me is like a good day to go back to school.
Okay.
And like you and I have talked about how we're both learners.
Right.
And so the other thing that comes up for me, and feel free to chime in here, I don't have to move us along so fast, but the difference between going to school when it's mandatory, required, and then get kind of sick of that, wonder when can I get done with this, and then now like the latter half, I'm like, oh, I want to learn something new every day. I'm so interested. Like I was talking about music with Child 2 last night.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I forgot some of this stuff, and now you're interested in music, so I get to relearn things and maybe learn it better than I ever had. So I get all excited that I'm like, oh, I love to learn. Yeah, you gotta want it.
I want to make sure I'm being clear that I wasn't nervous every day of school. Like I was excited to learn during school too. Like once we got to it, I really enjoyed a lot of the classes, a lot of the teachers, the classmates.
It was more like the anticipation of the unknown, right?
Yeah, of what's different. You know, how am I going to get used to this?
Yeah.
Those things.
Yeah. I think you got better at that, and I got worse at it. I mean, I'm recovering, trying to get better at doing something new or getting uncomfortable or being uncomfortable and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Going to something you said, learning every day. You and I are both learners at heart, as you said. And I think that's something that I enjoy seeing in you, because I think both of us are always trying to learn more, understand better, see things in more complex ways as well. And
yeah, like having different perspectives, or take somebody else's perspective and apply it to how I'm thinking. And yeah, I forget how easy it is to look up the information, even though it's so easy to look up the information, but to not waste that effort looking up something that doesn't really matter, but actually like I can go back and I can relearn music theory better than I ever learned when I was just a whirlwind going through college after high school, working overnights, and, you know, doing all the social things, you know, like it's a crazy time, right? And it's like, I'm like, I think, did I forget more than I even learned? You know, and now it's like, oh, I can decide in this day and age, this information age, there's almost too much possibility. So the overwhelm comes back in. But then it's like, okay, let's, like, all these things just kind of come flooding in with this. It can almost be too much that it just like, what's the word? I freeze. What's that? I can't remember what that word is.
Freeze?
Yeah. It paralyzes you.
Yeah.
You know? And I guess what that brings up is being okay with like a little bit every day. So if I study a little bit of music theory again every day, I'll probably get back to where I was, and then even beyond. If I just, you know, same with like I told Child 2 with guitar and Child 1 with piano. Like they're both kind of interested in both, but Child 2 gravitates more towards guitar.
Yep.
And Child 1's gravitating and studying a little more in depth the piano right now.
Right.
It's like, don't feel like you need to practice 3 hours a day. Get the habit of 15 minutes a day and kind of cement that practice into your life. And then, you know, it'll increase the more you're interested, but that's something I have to tell myself. So I caught myself saying that to Child 2 with guitar because his fingertips were getting sore from pressing on the strings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you've been playing for like a half hour and you've only been playing for like 3 weeks.
Yep.
It's okay to take a break, but seeing that passion in him, it just lights me up. And like we can hear child one playing piano at night.
Yeah.
Oh, like I know.
So
like,
great.
We just are just beaming. So much fun. So, yeah, it's fun.
You are right about that just a little bit each day. I started back with Duolingo.
Right.
And I mean, I used to have a over year streak going, and then I think I've talked about this, but
yeah,
it got broken and I had to start at one again. And so I took a break because I was just, I don't know, I just took a break.
What did I say? Devastated? You're like, I wasn't devastated. I'm like, I was when my streak got broken.
Yeah.
But like being able to curb that, we don't have to be so high when everything's good. You don't have to be so low when everything goes wrong,
Yep.
That's a lesson I want to keep teaching myself.
Yeah. But I mean, I think what's good is I got back to it. And so I'm learning Spanish and I started learning Swedish as well. That's something I've always wanted to learn. My grandma spoke Swedish. I still have relatives in Sweden. And so I've always wanted to, not that I've had ever really a good use case for it, but just something I've wanted to do. And so now I'm doing it. I'm learning it.
That would be a good thing for me to give like 5 to 10 minutes a day to pick Spanish up again.
Yeah.
What else are you thinking about?
Along the lines of first days, as you were talking through something, I'm thinking about first days of work as well. And I end up getting kind of that same ball of nerves energy. This was a few years ago, but there's one year that we were having an issue with some gardener snakes kind of around the house. And so it was the day before I started a brand new job, and I decided to mow the lawn, weed, and then get this snake away stuff that smelled like rotten eggs.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Did you? And I dumped it around the foundation of the house to try and keep snakes away. So we had one snake that wanted to come up, and it would like go and crawl up by our front door, like up a step.
Yeah.
And it would like put itself up along the door, like it was crawling up.
I think it was cool.
Something, and it was crawling up on the door. It freaked me out. And so anyway, I got the snake away. It smelled terrible, but I'm like, this stuff works. This is great. Well, I put it all the way around the house, and then I got to the air conditioner and I really put it there because that's where it kind of liked to be. And all of a sudden you came out and you're like, what are you doing? It smells so bad in the house.
Yeah.
And
I thought I was having a stroke because all of a sudden I just smelled this weird like burning smell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm really sensitive to smells. Just so everybody knows. And Laura has to deal with that.
Yes.
Because like you put lotion on and I'm like, what did you do? I get like itchy eyes and like my throat gets a little scratchy. And like even some of your candles, I'm like,
you have some sensitivities there.
Yeah. But like this, I was just like, what is that smell? And I came out of the house. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And I had gotten done putting all of it down, all of it.
Yeah.
And it was late at night when I was doing this. And then I think I spent the next hour or two trying to, and they were granules, so trying to wash them away from any of the vents into the house. And so it's one of those kind of, I have this nervous energy about the next day. And so I do and take on these things that make no sense to take on. You should be resting and getting your notebook set out, right? Putting your outfit together, whatever you do that helps you feel ready.
And you're like, I'm going to organize this closet. I'm like, why?
I know. I am going to landscape and try and protect the house from snakes.
It's like, yeah. I mean, I do things like that too. It's your mind is so busy that you kind of physically need to be busy, right?
Yeah, that must be.
It's something like
what
that.
It is.
I mean, because me working with my hands and letting my mind drift, it helps your process, right? It's just like going for a drive, you're paying enough attention to something, but your brain's working in the background. Like I know there's lots of studies about that. I've heard about it. I'm like, oh, that's probably why I don't mind doing chores around the house, because I have a pocket notebook and I'll stop like every 10 minutes and I'll write like an idea down or something. So I'm sure that's what you're doing. But yeah, I think we had to send the kids to one of our parents or something. I'm like, they got to get out of the house. I'm like,
Just for a little while.
like, this isn't good. Like, let's take care of this. Like, open, I turned the fan off. Anyway.
It was definitely a thing. Honestly, I didn't know I was going to be talking so much about kind of nerves and anxiety and like that uncertainty. But even something as simple of, do you bring your lunch? Do you go and find lunch somewhere, even though you don't know where lunch can be found?
Like at a job, you mean?
Right, at a new job.
Like school, there's a cafeteria.
School, there's a cafeteria. Yes.
But you might not like it.
Which I had to put money in child one's lunch account.
Okay.
Note to self. But I remember there was another position I started and I showed up. I didn't know where to go. And so I went to go to my supervisor's office and they weren't there. And then I went and I sat in the main commons area and just waited until somebody found me. Because I wasn't quite sure what to do. I was sitting outside where my office was and no one was around and I didn't really have a schedule and so maybe, it almost makes me wonder of some of that nervous ball of energy that I have. Does some of that, like I roll with it still. Mm-hmm. I still go with it.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure why I think those things are going to happen. It's like I almost over anticipate.
Right.
Overthink.
Yeah.
Like you were saying. Back to your original thought.
Yeah.
And so you haven't had a lot of that with new jobs or first days of school?
Well, I haven't had a whole lot of jobs, to be honest. But yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. Like when I went to work in a cabinet shop.
Yeah.
I felt out of my depth, but I'm like, I can do this. like I can do this. Like, but I'm sure with excitement, there's always a little bit of anxiety for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're connected. I used to get really excited, anxious, nervous, like before a race or before a hockey game, the butterflies, right?
Yeah.
So with school though, it was more tied to excitement and possibility and what do I get to learn now? Or I'm excited for this English class or, talking about firsts, I'm pretty sure that there's more hesitation from me and uncertainty, but the school factor, the learning, like really helps me forget about that because the excitement, I probably because I was really good at school for the most part. Like,
do you think some of that's because school for the most part is fairly structured? Or there is some structure and some frame to it?
Yeah. I mean, I always felt a little uncertain if I was uncertain, if something wasn't clear, I felt like something was wrong with me.
Yeah.
And then I would maybe spiral. But I got pretty good at being okay with raising my hand and saying, I don't understand in that environment. It took me much longer to, my 30s when I started the cabinet shop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was afraid of making mistakes there. Really afraid of making mistakes. And I talked about it before, probably a couple times, like
sure.
A day where I finally said like, hey, I made a mistake and I'm sorry. And how can I help fix it? Or can you help me fix it? I could do that in school. That was like a safe space for that. But like out in the real world, it was much more daunting feeling. I think as I grew and realized, well, every day is like going to school. And guess what? It's not that big of a deal if something doesn't go well.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes, not trying to get super heavy, but that takes work. That takes a practice. That takes self-care and like a routine of like, hey, like, just like, child 2 is not going to be the best at playing guitar right away. I wasn't either. I told him like, only reason I can play what you're trying to play right now and I can show you is because I started playing when I was your age.
Yeah.
I haven't played I stopped playing like right around the time your brother was born. I barely played. So like, we're going to kind of relearn some things together. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
But I think when you're younger, it feels like everything has to be so immediate. And so I think I've gotten better at like delaying gratification,
Mm-hmm.
even though like I love, like I said, I just said like the validation of like getting good marks in school, like that really worked for me, or like I was molded to really love that.
Yeah.
Um, and then out in the real world, not everybody drops by and like showers you with praise or gratitude for the work you do. So I mean, I think people should, and I like operating like that and giving people praise and like
Mm-hmm.
pointing out like, hey, that was really nice. You know, like when I see the kids do something like kind and generous, I make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, there's something there about that, I think.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite part about the first day of school?
Maybe seeing who's in my classes, and like if it was a new teacher, meeting the new teacher and seeing like what they were about.
Okay.
Um, I think it changed, you know, like, so like the first time you have a teacher, you don't know them. And so you're like a little unsure. But then the first day of school, when it's like, I've already had that professor or I've already had that teacher, like I'm signing up for the class again for a reason. So it's almost like seeing a friend again. Like my English teachers in high school, college, I looked forward to seeing them and having classes with them. Same with my music teachers, you know? So I think it was that.
Yeah.
Like it really, you know, like, but even though like, it's not like, I wasn't like huge on group projects, but I was excited to see who I was going to be learning with. I don't know. I never thought of that really. And like when you're younger, it was like, or I guess it's any time. Like if you're in a class with someone that maybe is being disruptive, like that's never fun. But I don't think I ever really had to deal with that like after like middle school, right? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, yeah. What about you?
I like that part too. Getting back and seeing my friends and seeing whether or not they were in my classes, learning a little bit about what the class would be like to give myself some sense of, okay, this is what we'll be doing. But I would be lying if I didn't say, I think one of my favorite parts, in addition to seeing my friends, was the new school supplies
Yeah.
and locker setup, figuring out how I was going to get my locker all nice and cool looking for me.
I had the same locker for the 4 years of high school.
Oh, I didn't.
No, they switched
No.
you.
They switched it up. Yeah, you got different hallway spots. But I loved even like that first week you'd get your textbooks, come home and I'd put like that paper
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 bags.
bag cover on it and get to decorate.
I don't think kids
I
do
like
that
doing that.
anymore.
Don't they?
They all have Chromebooks and laptops.
That's fair. I was really good at putting those like paper bag.
I used to doodle all over those paper bags. That was the best part.
Get stickers and
Yeah.
could even like tape the sides so they don't like
Yeah.
slip off. And
I used to like making my schedule like in an Excel. I would make like a grid and I would like write the
you
times.
use Excel? No.
I probably used the table function in Word
Okay.
when I was in high school or something.
Forget you're younger than me. Okay.
Yeah.
I would use a ruler and a notebook.
Yeah. No. Well, once we got a computer, like in high school. Anyway, something I just thought of, talking about school, it makes me kind of think of math and science and English. But most of my school was focused on music. Like not even college. Like college I was a music major.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really loved being in men's chorus, guitar ensemble, studying guitar, music theory, right?
Yeah.
All that stuff. That's different. Like that's a lot more interaction and like making something, like
Mhm.
making music, right? So like in high school, I only had 4 classes. We had the block scheduling.
Okay.
And so only had 4 classes a day. And choir and band were split half the time of one of those 88 minutes. So
Okay.
it was 88-minute classes or something. So at one point I had, you know, like an hour and a half of music, and then I had a another hour and a half of independent study that I was doing music when I
What?
was like a senior.
Okay, that was your senior year, though.
Yeah.
That wasn't every year.
For 4 years, I had 90 minutes of music, choir and band, and three other, there were only three other subjects every, but like the semesters were like a whole year's worth of work or whatever.
Okay.
I'm just, what's interesting to me is that I spent a lot of my time doing music. And so maybe that's where like that sense of community and like who am I around and who am I working with came from. But same with like in English and stuff. That was always fairly like I liked like when we would read like Shakespeare out loud, like everyone would take a part, like stuff like that. I really liked that.
Yeah.
Or talking about the text, like in literature or something. Like, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? Like, it was a little more versus. I didn't gravitate towards like science and math, where you're more like working on a problem like by yourself on paper. I mean, sometimes you would talk out loud, but anyway.
So funny. We are so different.
What do you mean?
No,
You're a musician.
I'm a musician. Yeah.
I know, but so tell me the difference here.
But like I loved chemistry and biology.
Well, you were going to be pre-med.
Well, yeah, but I love science, and I was really good at math, and with English and stuff, I was like, I'm like.
So, what drew you to those?
Science and biology.
And math.
I think I like to know how the world around us works. I think it's interesting to understand like organisms and plants and
the way
birds,
things work,
and ecosystems and how chemicals form together and don't, and what they do, like what happens when you put certain things together. I think that's really cool.
Oh my gosh. So the way you're getting very passionate right now, like people can't see you, but you're getting, what I imagine is that you saw that look on my face while I was talking about the circle of fifths last night and relative minors and things like that. And I was talking and like, I'm beaming now. Right. So it's so funny the things that light us up. We're having similar reactions to different things.
Yes. Yes. If you were to give like supportive words, maybe, I don't know if it's advice, but if you were to help someone be excited or feel like comfortable, maybe going into a first day of school
or work,
what would you tell them? What's one thing?
Lean into the possibility and let it flow. Be open to the situation that you're in and see what happens.
I like that.
What about you?
I would say people are there to help you be successful. And so your teachers, your coaches, the principal, even if you're scared of the principal, you don't need to be. They're there because they're there to help you and cheer you on and be supportive of you. And that's something that is really important, that you're not in it alone, and that it's important for you to speak up and let people know when you need some help, or when you're nervous, or when you're excited, because they are there to be partners with you on your educational journey.
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Let's keep it short and sweet this week, and let's just roll into recommendations.
Sounds good.
And so, keeping with the theme, I'm going to recommend that people treat themselves to like a nice new pen or pack of pens and like a notebook or something. And if you're thinking you're uncertain about something or something new is starting, crack open those pens and reflect on it in your notebook. Very helpful for me. Give it a try.
Do you have a favorite type of pen?
I am loving these. Are they Pilot? The Pilot Precise, the V5 and V7s. You got me these clicky ones. And then I've tried the ones that have like the liquid ink with a different cap. I like these
Okay.
ones with the cap with a metal clip because they go in my pocket and they stay clipped on my pocket. So I have that with like a field notes in my back pocket. So it's like my everyday carry. So it's perfect. Yeah, the clicky top ones, they tend to poke me because I accidentally like click them open and then like they stab me in the leg or something.
I love that one of the pros is that it'll work well in your pocket.
Yeah, because then it's always with me. I don't mind using my notes app on my phone, but I really love the mechanical. Something about the mechanics of writing really helps me process. And typing's fine too, but I'm a slow typer. Faster on my phone than on the computer for sure, which is hilarious. But I like writing down and using pen and paper.
Mm.
Got any recommendations?
My recommendation would be to take care of yourself and be kind to yourself. First days for me are sometimes filled with excitement and a little bit of nervousness,
A little discomfort.
little discomfort. But when I get into it, the day is exciting and fun, and I learn a lot, and then I look forward to the year. So, but be gentle with yourself. Hydrate, get rest, do something to unwind at the end of the day. But know you've got this.
Yeah. Yeah, the growth comes from a little bit of tension and a little bit of uncomfortableness.
Yeah,
So I love that. All right. Let's get out of here.
sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.